With the Pokemon Presents on Pokemon Day 2023 in just a couple of days, I have been thinking about what potentially will be done with the recent Pokemon releases, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. It seems likely, based on the Pokemon Sword and Shield releases, that we will get some sort of DLC to add to the storyline and even some new areas of Scarlet and Violet. These DLCs will come with added Pokemon as well, and I was wondering, what would these theoretical DLC Pokemon for Scarlet and Violet be? What's good, Chaotic Nation? It's your boy Chaos here, and I wanted to share some of my thoughts on some potentially new Pokemon that could be added to the DLC of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet that is announced if it comes out in a few days. Obviously, I think there will be a connection to Pokemon Home compatibility coming soon. It's just a matter of time before there's connectivity added to Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. But I'm more interested in what new Pokemon could be added to the DLC of Scarlet and Violet. If we take a look at Pokemon Sword and Shield, we see that all Pokemon were released that were new or legendaries, except for the Galarian Slowpoke line. But I don't think this will be the case for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet because of the distinct group of Pokemon, Paradox Pokemon. The DLC will likely have some sort of continuation of the Scarlet and Violet storyline, where the player will travel down to Area Zero. There's also plenty of offshoots in Area Zero that could extend deeper into the recesses of Area Zero, places like the cave where you find Roaring Moon or Iron Valiant. There is a weird distinction between those two specific Paradox forms and the rest of the forms in the Pokédex, because they are placed way later than the other Paradox forms, which got me thinking why they are so out of place. Surely there must be something with this placement going on. I think the placement is important because these two Paradox forms were discovered late in the discoveries in Area Zero. They would not have been found during the first excavation and first adventure to the area, but rather they showed up later in time. This is because they are found in the farther recesses of Area Zero, which means they might not be alone. The expansion of the DLC will likely take us further into Area Zero. These areas will likely be denoted by the directional inputs on the map, much like the overworld has sections of provinces labeled north, south, east, and west. What is important about these locations is that there are new Paradox forms located, which came just after Koraidon and Miraidon, which we already know were the first Paradox Pokemon sent back in time or sent forward in time through the time machine. Much like Koraidon and Miraidon, these Pokemon exhibit a territorial trait that makes them particularly aggressive to other species when they are close together. So they travel to the furthest reaches of Area Zero in order to separate themselves. The ones that can live more harmoniously with each other are able to share these terrains, so there could be more than just 4 Pokemon added to Scarlet and 4 Pokemon added to Violet in the DLC. The Chaos, what about the top section of the map that's blocked off? Yes, that portion of the overworld map is where many fans theorize the DLC will make a connection with the Kalos region, which could allow some native species to be found there. It would be a location similar to the Sinjo ruins that we find in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, where it's not really in either region, but it's somewhat between the two regions. However, this is not something that I'm super particularly interested in when covering in this video, so maybe that's a topic for some later video down the line that I could discuss. My interest is with the Paradox Pokemon, and I have a feeling that we've already seen some. An immediate connection can be drawn to Roaring Moon and Mega Salamence, or Iron Valiant and Mega Gallade. These Pokemon are incredibly similar looking, and perhaps it is the Mega Energy that does not quite reach the power of Primal Reversion. Yes, Primal Reversion. This brings our connection to our first potentially Paradox Pokemon, Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre. Primal Groudon and Primal Kyogre make sense as Paradox Pokemon since they are reverting back to the power they had in ancient times, as we learn in the Oras storyline. And with the evidence of Megas and their Paradox forms being so similar, could this mean all Mega evolutions are Paradox Pokemon? Could this even mean we extend to the Mystery Dungeon series with Primal Dialga, or even have tie-ins to Legends Arceus with the 2 new forms of Dialga and Palkia? I don't know for sure, but I think there is evidence that also Megas aren't entirely Paradox forms either. Because when we look at Mega Tyranitar and Iron Thorns, there's really none of the key features that distinguish Mega Tyranitar from its base form that are present in Iron Thorns. I wouldn't say this debunks the Megas are paradox forms theory, since Mega Tyranitar simply could have been a past form of Tyranitar, Tyranitar being the present form, and then Iron Thorns being the future. I think this could potentially bode well for Pokemon like Charizard and Mewtwo who have 2 Mega forms. Easily one could channel the power of past Paradox Pokemon, and the others could be some sort of future variation. I think this would mean that Charizard Y and Mewtwo X would be more like the past forms and be in Scarlet, as well as Mewtwo Y and Charizard X being the future forms that we would find in Violet. It also can mean Pokemon that are like Butterfree, whose counterpart got a Mega Evolution, could potentially have some sort of similar form in the future that just didn't manifest itself from Infinity Energy. There's more I want to say about Butterfree, but that's a topic I'm going to discuss later in this video. However, I want to pick up with the topic of Infinity Energy because I think it is very vital to this conversation. If we are saying that Mega Evolutions are connected to both Infinity Energy and Paradox forms, this links to a potential Paradox Pokemon that's already been revealed. The Eternal Flower, Floette. This is an unreleased form of Floette, which was created by AZ when he resurrected it with the power of the Infinity Energy, which means if we explore the top right area of the Paldea map, we could also get to see the Eternal Flower as a Paradox form of Floette, which would link Kalos to Paldea even more. We have seen Paradox Pokemon of not fully evolved Pokemon like Jigglypuff and Misdreavus, so this could be a similar case. Now obviously this form would be linked to the past since AZ created it in ancient times, and unlike the other Paradox forms, we know of only one of these in existence. It is a specific one owned by AZ, and there are no others of record. However, there could be some connection to a future form of Floette that was able to mate with the Eternal Flower and produce more offspring, which could be a good storyline for the DLC that encompasses this missing part of the overworld map. See, I even covered it, even though I wasn't trying to. There's so many connections. Something else I noticed about AZ's Floette, and that also ties to Scarlet and Violet, its hidden ability. In Generation 6, Eternal form of Floette is not able to have its hidden ability. And you know what other Pokemon can't have their hidden abilities? Raikou, Entei, and Suicune. Now, if you played Pokemon Scarlet, you will notice a particular page of the Scarlet book that depicts some sort of beast that looks like a fusion of Entei, Raikou, and Suicune. In Violet, this image is Cobalion, Terrakion, and Virizion. I have already suspected that these Pokemon would be some sort of Paradox form for their contemporary counterparts, but it seems even more likely with this connection to Floette and Infinity Energy. Perhaps the section of the map that we can currently not access is tied to Geosenge Town, where the ultimate weapon was built, and thus be a place where some of these Pokemon might reside. So they are just far enough away from civilization, but they are also very much connected to the ultimate weapon as a power source of this eternal energy. This would also explain why the Paradox Beast form and Paradox Swords of Justice form would have been notated in the Great Crater of Paldea if the blast from the ultimate weapon created that giant crater in Paldea, because they would have been attracted to the energy that was disposed of in that location. I know I said I would return to Butterfree, and something else I have considered with deciding if we have seen some Paradox Pokemon before or not, is there's already an established connection with Dynamax Energy being related to Infinity Energy, due to the Infinity Energy being released into space with the ultimate weapon. It could be likely that these Gigantamax forms, which change the structure of the Pokemon they resemble, could also be some sort of Paradox form. It just so happens that Paldea, Galar, and Kalos share a similar geographical relationship, being located as our modern day Spain and England and France, respectively. The same energy could have originated from the blast of the ultimate weapon, and this phenomenon is just differently experienced as you go across the regions. There's also an important distinction with Eevee, Meowth, and Pikachu who can't evolve if they are Gigantamax, which would again tie in with the Paradox forms like Fluttermane and Screamtail, which are based off of not fully evolved Pokemon. Could a Gigantamax Pokemon also be another form of Paradox Pokemon? We can connect this theory even further with energy if we look at a video by Birdkeeper Toby and FC Juju. The pair theorizes that there is a connection between the Crystal Legendary of Scarlet and Violet, Zygarde, and Guzzlord, based on their similar appearances. I have linked a video to that in the description down below. This also connects the third Legendary of Scarlet and Violet to be capable of interdimensional time travel, which could explain the creation of Ultra Beast. Toby and FC Juju also acknowledged that this crystal legendary in Paldea has the power of creation, which is why Koraidon and Miraidon were created in an image similar to Heath's Cyclizar. When we combine the power of creation and the connection between the crystal legendary of Paldea, Zygarde, and Guzzlord, which are all very similar, we have established another case of Koraidon and Miraidon by creating 3 different beings at different points in the Pokemon timeline. Zygarde obviously has the connections to Xerneas and Yveltal in the Aura or Life and Death trio as part of Infinity Energy connected to the Ultimate Weapon. It is possible that these Pokemon are representations of the Hindu god trio, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Brahma is a creator god, and if we trace the origins of that creation, that denotes a time of beginnings, a time when there was not anything. Everything had to be created. The idea of creation was already acknowledged as a trait of this crystal legendary in Area Zero. Perhaps why we don't see this legendary in the original Scarlet and Violet games is because it already has done its job of creation and now is dormant. Vishnu is the next god of the trio and is often referred to as the preserver or sustainer god. Zygarde, as being notated as the order between life and death, makes this also a prime candidate for the sustainer of life role and the current order of existence. I believe part of why Zygarde can split up into multiple forms is so that Zygarde can keep an eye on these creations and watch over it. And this brings us to our final part of the trio, Shiva, the Destroyer. It's obvious from Guzzlord's Dex entries that Guzzlord is linked to gluttony and will consume everything in its wake, leaving no traces left behind. Perhaps this is the perception of the Crystal Legendary that it had of Zygarde, who took up the order of creation, and it was seen as a gluttonous monster who destroyed the beautiful creations of the Crystal Legendary. In turn, Guzzlord would have then be created in the future as a variant lining up with the Crystal Legendary in the past, and Zygarde in the present, and Guzzlord as the future form of the same Pokemon. I would wager that it's likely that the other Ultra Beast would have originated in some future forms of modern Pokemon as well, like Tentacruel and Nihilego. Both share very similar body structures. But for now, I'll leave that for you to decide and see if you want to subscribe to my theory or maybe you have your own. I would like to know your comment in the comment section down below, so let me know your thoughts down there. Speaking of subscribe, make sure you subscribe to the channel and leave a like on this video. They help support me out in the YouTube algorithm and help get the channel growing, so please help me out if you would just take the time to do that. Also, you don't want to miss any future installments. I might have some more ideas after Pokemon Day comes out in a few days, and we'll have some more information to talk about. You can also check out the description down below, see my links to other content platforms. I'm on Twitter, TikTok, Discord, Twitch. I have another YouTube channel, Invisible Corporations. They're all linked down there. Please go check them out. If you like the content here, I guarantee you're going to like the content there as well. Thank you for watching, and until next time, I'm Chaos, signing off. Stay safe, and as always, burn it up.